Our series of videos are for teachers who are looking for new and innovative ways to close the gap of equity and achievement in the classroom. Today we're going to look at the question, what does collaboration look like in the elementary classroom? For many years, teachers have taught children the same way. Students enter the classroom with a teacher out the front of the room and they impart knowledge to students. They all get the same information in the same way and at the same time. Despite research and updated pedagogy, many teachers still continue to teach students in isolation. Students sit still in rows, are discouraged from talking, and the teacher is usually at the front of the room as the focal point for all learning. Competition among students, not collaboration, is how most classrooms operate. So let's first look at why. Why have a collaborative classroom? First reason, students become more independent learners, not totally relying on receiving information from the teacher. They are able to construct their own meaning together with others. Secondly, students are active and engaged. In a collaborative classroom, they are not passive learners. They're interacting with each other as they solve problems together. Students also develop important social and communication skills. They learn how to plan and manage their time and be accountable for their time. And lastly, students are able to pool their knowledge and skills and learn from their peers. So, how do you transform your classroom from the traditional individual learning model to a collaborative learning community? Well, the first thing to remember is that collaboration just doesn't happen magically. Students need to be given the skills to work in a group. These skills take time to develop and they need to be reinforced over and over. There are three main elements of effective group work and collaborating classrooms. Number one, group work must be designed. You can't just put students together and ask them to do work without giving them the skills. So the goal of the group work needs to be clearly explained to the students. Teachers can also give students a learning map or learning outcomes so students understand what's expected of them when they're collaborating. It's important that you assign roles for each member in the group. As all teachers know, if you put students in groups, usually some of the work just falls on a few. But the way you can avoid that is to assign roles so that you know and they know that they are accountable for doing a particular role. The second thing, after the group work must be designed, the group work needs to be supervised. So you as a teacher need to model the process of how you interact in a group. You also need to give students a way that they can assess themselves so that after they've worked in a group, how can they know that they've achieved the goals? You need to model to the students how to break down the task. So once you've given the students a task to do in a group, model that behaviour that you want to see in the group. Thirdly, the last element of good group management is assessment. And this is done throughout the group work experience as well as at the end. So during the group work, when students are working together, you need to have a way that students can have a timeline, and so that they are accountable for completing work in the timeline that they establish. And you can also get them to self-assess. So you can include something like a reflection journal where they reflect on their work each day things that worked well, things that didn't work well, things that could be improved. So the whole process of assessment doesn't just happen at the end of a group work, it also happens throughout. So it's not so much summative assessment but formative assessment. So let's quickly review. In a collaborative classroom, students become more independent as learners. The role of the teacher changes and is more of a facilitator working alongside the students. Students also learn how to plan, manage, and be accountable for their time. Learning is a social activity. Students develop communication and teamwork skills that will help them in their future life. Students also become better at self-assessment. They're able to try out ideas, assess their peers, and they're aware of the learning goals to be achieved. Finally, compared to the passive and traditional role of students, they are active and engaged in their own learning, and this affects motivation and also achievement. So, if you would like to learn more about making your classroom a collaborative environment, or you just want resources featured in our video series, please go to www.closethegapproject.com.